Hey YouTube, Dan Otto here. The Great League is on for 2 more weeks of the season, and then we're getting to Specialty Cups. And a lot of people I've seen complaining online about how the Great League has become super stale. And you're seeing one person comments on my Twitter saying like, Medicham, galarian, stunfisk, Noctowl, and I forget the fourth one they mentioned, is Lanturn, is on 80% of the teams I see in the 2200 range. And I'm like, yeah, well, they're on 80% of the teams that I see in the 2800 range as well. And I was thinking about it, and I saw like Home Slice Henry talk about like him having like he was going through PvP Poke trying. I mean, like I think his joke was like, you know, you're on PvP Poke too long if you think Malamar is your answer to all the problems of Great League. And this is what it's come down to. It's come down to the meta is very stale, and I'm going to explain why in this video, and how you go about dealing with that. So the first thing I want to talk about. So the first thing you have on the list here is just Great League, and it's basically what you see in the meta, right? You have your steals, registeel, galarian, stunfisk, bastiodon. You have your fighters, Medicham, Scrafty. You see a little bit of. You have your flyers, Pelipper, Noctowl, Gliscor, Pidgeot. You have Lanturn there, right? So there is your top 15. Top 15 that is on every single person's team. Why is that? So if you go to, I have a whole series on this channel of team building with Defense Deoxys, Nidoqueen, Sableye, and I also have how you run different styles teams. And one of the style teams that I think was the easiest to run was a balanced team. A balanced team is basically you have 2 Pokemon that cover each other's weaknesses and a safe swap. So I think the easiest one, the oldest one in the book was Swampert lead, Sableye safe swap, Skarmory in the back, because Swampert was just super weak to grass. You have a Steel Flyer which will super resist the grass, and you had Sableye as a safe swap that can flip switch. A lot of these teams were easy to build. You had these core safe swaps in Lickitung, Sableye that could flip matchups and make these balanced teams work. Or they can, if you're going to lose the lead and switch, you can at least try and grab shields, right, and take shield advantage. You need 3 things to do well in Great League. In any GBL matchup, you need either energy advantage, switch advantage, or shield advantage. So a good safe swap was always great at getting you either switch advantage or a shield advantage. The problem was they buffed the one Pokemon that absolutely destroys all the safe swaps that we had in this league. So I just mentioned Lickitung and Noctowl. Lickitung and Noctowl were probably 1 and 2 best safe swaps in this league because they're tanky, they're pretty spammy with the Lick and Body Slam and the Shadow Claw and Foul Play, and they also had like you had the return on Sableye, which could flip even bad matchups. So that is why you could run a lot of balanced teams. I'm at the point where I do not think I can run a balanced team and do anything in this league, and I'm going to show you why. You know the trifecta right now, right? I went over that. Let's just go here, and I'm clicking in switches. So these are the top rank now switches on PvP Poke. And you're going to see Sableye is number 4 and Lickitung is number 10. The problem is Noctowl being a normal typing has absolutely destroyed Sableye and Lickitung. There's no chance, as I can just open this up there. There's no chance, see 428 loss against Noctowl. And if we go down to Lickitung, 362 loss against Noctowl. With so many teams running on Noctowl, you cannot really run these two as safe swaps anymore because you get beat badly. And I gotta imagine Pelipper also loses to Noctowl, 494, right? So your best safe swap, and you lose to Noctowl as well. Your best safe swaps are now gone in this league, which means that if you have like 4 or 5 safe swaps, Medicham's got to lose to Noctowl as well. If you have all these best, does any of these beat Noctowl? Nope. Loses to Noctowl. Okay, so double beats Noctowl, although I don't have one. I think galarian, stunfisk has a safe swap, will beat Noctowl. But that's even tricky. And then Gliscor, I don't think Gliscor is going to beat Noctowl. No. So when you have the majority of the safe swaps losing to one Pokemon that is on like 75 to 8% of the teams right now, you cannot really run a balanced team, because if you lose the lead and try any of these as a safe swap, you're going to lose switch as well. And some of these other safe swaps like Stunfisk, if they have the Noctowl on the team, they have an answer to Stunfisk on their team. And that is why the Great League has become very difficult to team build and play against, because it has become less about team building and more about where your Pokemon line up. because your traditional team building of balanced teams do not work anymore. And that's why I think a lot of people are now having success with ABB style teams. So for those of you who don't know, you can go watch my videos on ABB style teams. But ABB style teams are where you have a Pokemon on the lead, two Pokemon that stay at the same typing in the back, and the A covers the B's weakness. So one Pokemon that I saw a ton was one lineup I saw a ton, which if you go to my video the other day, which beats it very easily. But one of the teams was Medicham lead, Noctowl safe swap, and Charizard in the back, right? So you're drawing out a Lanturn with your Noctowl. You'll still get a couple Shadow Balls off. You'll lose that matchup. Medicham will come back in, take care of the Lanturn, and then you'll have a Charizard shield up, or at least the Lanturn is out of the way, right? So I think ABB style teams are a lot of the way people are going. But what the second, so that's the first thing. So it destroyed the lead. The second thing that it did is it destroyed some of these other Pokemon that could have play in the meta, but have not. So for 2 years now, I've almost been doing this. I have made 50 videos on Ninetales. Ninetales was my go-to because it actually beats Noctowl, so that's fun. But it was my go-to because at the time it beat Walrein, it beat Registeel, it beat so many Trevenants, which were everywhere. It had so much good play. But now the problem is you have these three Pokemon right here, three Pokemon in particular popping up everywhere: Lanturn, Medicham, and Bastiodon. And those are just three Pokemon that are in the trifecta that are no longer sort of usable, that you cannot beat, and they're everywhere, so you can no longer use these sort of niche ones. I'm trying to think of like other niche Pokemon. I haven't actually gone through this list, but what I think happened is there's a lot of other Pokemon that people built up and wanted to use but could no longer use anymore. So again, Toxapex is a good one, right? I built up this Toxapex XL. I guess not XL, just was mine XL? I don't think so. Maybe actually I think mine is maybe like 1 or 2. Anyways, Toxapex. But now because you have Lanturn, the trifecta plus Lanturn, right? Lanturn there, Bastiodon, and their steals. Yes, you'll do okay against Noctowl and Medicham, but for the most part, you're losing against these other ones, right? So it makes it a little trickier to run that. Frostlass I started running, which I think is still okay. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else on this list that a lot of people wanted to use as fun. Arquanid, or whatever you pronounce it. Again, another one. It really limits any bug Pokemon. Beedrill. Beedrill was a fun Pokemon that could use it with the drill run to take care of that. Arquanid, same thing. But now, like between the Registeel and Noctowl and Lanturn, like look at these losses. These losses are everywhere on teams. So you can the water spider here is no longer really usable. And there's just so many of these like otherwise fun Pokemon. Jumpluff was a fun one to use once in a while. But again, when your two biggest losses are Registeel and Noctowl, like pretty badly, and then Stunfisk, it's very difficult to now put these Pokemon on teams. So Galvantula, same thing was everywhere. You're going to take Noctowl down, but then Lanturn, Galarian, Stunfisk, stuff like that, and Medicham, you lose that too, right? So the problem is, because you have this limited meta, it shrinks the amount of usable Pokemon you can use. Because it shrinks the usable Pokemon, because you don't have Safe Swap anymore, it limits how you can team build. So suddenly, Great League went from what could be various team buildings. Again, go check out my team building playlist. ABB style team, balanced team, multiple Safe Swap team I used once. You can use like same typing team to a certain extent with like Swampert, Walrein, and Gyarados. I think I used in like the Ultra League. So there's so many different types of teams you could have built that you can't build anymore. There's so many different types of Pokemon you could have used before that you can't use with this meta. And that's why the meta is now like 15 Pokemon, like 10, 15 Pokemon that you're seeing on 80% of the teams. And it now relies more on order than it relies on your team building. And I think that's why a lot of people are getting frustrated, because I think I'm a pretty good team builder. I'm a good team builder, okay battler. And a lot of this is now coming down to like order alignment, counting properly, catching, a lot of these like more advanced skills. So like I think a lot of the people who have hit Legend already are just using meta teams and dominating with them, right? Because they're some of the best in the world. But for the average battler, if you're trying to recreate these teams or build your own teams, it's not working because you just don't have the skill set to. It is very lineup dependent, and you don't have the skill realistically to outmaneuver and jump around and catch and count properly, and like a lot of these like advanced skills that this game brings. So that's why I think Great League has become stale. That's why I think people are having problems with Great League, and I think they are going to have to address this. I don't think that they will take back the wing attack buff. I think the wing attack buff is here to stay, but I think you need to buff other things. Now I have no idea what you would buff to deal with this trifecta, and I don't know what you would buff to deal with this trifecta. Do you rebuff to a certain extent Nidoqueen, right? Because Nidoqueen would handle the fighters. It has the earth power to wall registeel, and would do okay against like Trevenant and stuff like that, and Noctowl if it got buffed again. So that's one that could come back. I was about to say you can't, like I was gonna say, I was looking at like Swampert's up here. It's like people are like, why don't you just nerf Mudshot? Well, then if you nerf Mudshot here and here, your Noctowl goes even higher, right? So you can't really just like nerf Mudshot. You can't like buff these other Pokemon because they're still like top, like say you can't buff Shadow Claw or Foul Play or anything because they're still like top 25, right? So you got to try and buff something that will bring these Pokemon in the sort of 430 range a little higher, but you can't make them overpowered. Like, so I'm just looking at Frostlass. Like Frostlass is a great Pokemon that if you play in any limited cup, Frostlass is dominant. So you can't really buff Powder Snow or Avalanche or Shadow Ball because then it would make Frostlass too OP in the limited cups. So do you buff something like an Ice Punch? Like, do you buff the quick punches as get more damage or quicker energy to do that? Because they're not Ice Punches. It's got to be like a smaller move that will change the meta to a certain extent. So I don't know what the answer is. I don't think they're going to take away the buff to Wing Attack, but it really has changed the meta and what you're able to do in it. So yeah, I think something's got to change, but I don't know what it's going to be. Anyways, that's just my thoughts on why you're seeing what you're seeing, and why the Great League is the way it is. Oh, I guess one thing I didn't talk about is how do you deal with it. So I put out like a ton of teams so far in the Go Battle League. My most successful team, which I posted on Sunday, was Lanturn, Sableye, and Pelipper. And it basically comes down to a combo of meta Pokemon while also countering the meta Pokemon, right? So Pelipper was super strong because you can deal with the fighters. You can deal with Galarian Stunfisk because the wing attack buff, you can beat Galarian Stunfisk. And other flyers you'll just do okay against. And Lanturn, you're going to get lit up, but you can't do much about that. Lanturn, as I always say, trifecta plus Lanturn, because Lanturn deals with the flyers. It does okay against the steals, like wins against like Bastiodon, and then it can do okay against fighters. Sableye, same thing. You're going to lose an Noctowl matchup, but for the most part, you do well against steals. You're going to do well against fighters, and you're going to lose, but do okay against Lanturn. So what I am trying to do now is build teams, and I've got like a Noctowl, and I don't know when I'm going to post it, but I got a Noctowl, and I did use my Ninetales again. It's trying to find, in my opinion, you either join them and hope for alignment, or you try and find 3 Pokemon that can generally hang with all of those Pokemon. And for me, that was Pelipper, Sableye. Lanturn can kind of hold up. There's just going to be certain matchups you will lose, but that's just kind of how you have to play it, right? You take those losses if you can hold with what you're seeing for most of the time. Anyways, just some thoughts on the issue. Let me know if you have any other sort of ideas in your head why you think it is the way it is. If not, go check out I guess I'll post it below, my video on this best team that I just talked about. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.